This will kind of be a long one. So, fair warning, the house that I grew up in was built in the 70s by my great-grandfather. He passed away in the front hallway of a heart attack in the late 90s. Now, the hallway had this fucking hideous brown tile in it, and that's where the first paranormal events happened, or at least the ones that I can remember. Toy cars and marbles would go rolling across the tile in the middle of the night when everyone was in bed. I started getting night terrors of a man screaming at me and trying to pull me off my bed. While looking back now, after seeing photographs and hearing stories about how abusive he was, I realized that the man I saw was my great-grandpa. He was a pretty shitty human being. Then, things around the house would start breaking or would go missing. And, of course, me and my sister took the blame. When I was about 9, the events really started amping up. Footsteps around the house, lights turning on and off, cold spots, appliances turning on and on, changing channel, shadow figures, and a sound of a typewriter typing down in the basement. Multiple times I can remember my dad going through the house with a shotgun because he swore he saw someone come right through the room. I can remember always feeling like I was being watched by someone, and the whole house took on a very sinister feeling to me. But we lost the house, well, around 2008. They refurbished it and sold it, and we got to meet the new owners. But you want to know what they asked us? They asked us if we heard a typewriter in the basement. It happened to my uncle. On Christmas Eve 1994, he was riding his motorcycle with a friend on their way home from visiting my grandparents, who lived in a small village. It had rained like crazy the week before. The bridge on the main road had collapsed, so they had to take another route on a dirt road around the hill. They had been riding for a few minutes through the dark forest when suddenly something happened. My uncle hit the brake so abruptly that they almost fell out of the bike. Hundreds of monkeys were emerging from the bushes a few meters in front of them, making their way to the other side of the dirt road beyond the tree line. My uncle waited patiently until the last monkey disappeared behind the bushes. Just when he was about to start the engine, another monkey walked out of the bushes. This one, my uncle said, was unbelievably huge. Dark, grayish, and as tall as an adult. It was bulky and it limped at a little as it moved. It was walking upright, very slowly towards the bushes, and suddenly it stopped in the middle of the road. It turned its head around to look at my uncle. He said he'd never felt so scared in his life before. The gigantic monkey stood there so still, staring into his soul. There was a flash of intimidation and wisdom in its eyes that only comes with old age. And he could see that this beast knew that they were in its territory. My uncle could feel his friend shaking violently behind him. Okay, let me tell you that we are not really familiar with the Sasquatch or Bigfoot legends where I come from, so whatever this thing was, it was neither of these two. After what felt like minutes of the staring contest was finally over. What the After what felt like minutes, the staring contest was finally over. The beast. After what felt like minutes, the staring contest was finally over, when the beast walked into the bushes to join its troop. My uncle waited for a few more minutes until he was convinced no more monkeys were showing up and caught them off guard before they took off. When they finally made their way out of the forest onto the main road, his friend went, "What the hell was that?" My uncle was sure that the huge monkey they had just seen was the leader of the troop. It was it was just trying to make sure that its troop made it to the other side of the forest safely. But what scared him the most was that it never blinked while staring at him. It still gives him the chills whenever he thinks about the frightening encounter. And as soon as he got home, he called my grandmother and told her that he had arrived home. He also told her about the beast. She said it might have been the spirit of the forest taking a form of a gigantic monkey. According to the local folklore, the forest is old and I have an oddly detailed long-term memory, which makes up for my terrible short-term memory. I have never forgotten this incident, and I have no explanation for it. This happened somewhere between the ages of 7 to 10. I think I was 8. In the mid to late 90s, 1990s. I was sleeping over at my best friend Kaylee's mom's apartment. Her parents had been divorced for as long as I knew her. Kaylee had a new Barbie landline phone in her room. On top of the phone was a blonde Barbie in a black dress like a cocktail singer. And I even googled it, and it's called the Solo and the Spotlight Barbie landline, if you want to go search up the image to get a picture of it. She told me her dad had gotten her the phone so he could talk to her whenever he wanted. It was on a different line than the other phones in the house. There was a bad storm that night, because of course there was. And I remember it being super dark outside, even though it wasn't late. Thinking back, we lost power briefly and could see out the window that the other apartments had also lost power. That wasn't typical of New York, but it was a really nasty storm. Kaylee's new phone rang. She answered it and seemed to be having trouble hearing the person on the other side. Eventually, looking confused, she said, "I think it's for you," and handed me the phone. Even though there was some static, I heard, "Hey, family nickname, it's your Uncle Will." Oh, okay, I see. "Hey," and then he said my family nickname. "It's your wait, where am I? Fuck. Damn it." Where is it? I lost my place. "Hey," he says my family's nickname. "It's your Uncle Will." My uncle has a very distinct, deep baritone voice and a Jersey accent. It was undoubtedly him. I don't recall what we said, but I remember thinking my uncle was acting strange and having a really hard time hearing him clearly because the connection was terrible. The conversation was brief. I know for sure when we were saying goodbye, he added, "I'll see you tomorrow." Kaylee and I were confused. I had no idea why my Uncle Will had called, and she had no idea how he got a hold of her phone number, which was brand new and apparently only her dad had. We had a bunch of theories, but nothing really made sense, even in the little kid logic. We figured we'd ask them questions the next day. I was indeed seeing my uncle that day, and Kaylee was going to her dad's house. My parents and uncle picked me up the next morning. He had absolutely no idea what I was talking about when I brought it up the phone call. He insisted he hadn't called me, and my parents said they didn't know Kaylee's number, so they couldn't have given it to him. He had never met Kaylee's dad. He was genuinely baffled, and I dropped it. Kaylee's dad told her he didn't give anyone the phone number and had no idea how my uncle would have gotten a hold of it. We got no answers. The adults brushed it off. Sure, it was just the wrong number, and we'd blown off the story. I have no idea what happened, or who I talked to that night. Nothing nefarious occurred, but it was weird as hell, and I just never forgot it. I've been told I'm quite attractive to spirits and ghosts. Is attractive the word? Not in a look sense. I give off some energy they like. I sense them. I feel them when they touch me. I constantly see energy, and I've always seen this energy. I've had a few paranormal occurrences which really stick out, but my recent and perhaps my scariest, to me personally anyway, happened a month ago. I just turned off my Kindle at around half 11 to go to sleep. I had school the next day and we had some exams and I needed to sleep. So I lie there, eyes shut just for a bit. You know when someone clumsily gets into bed and makes the bed shake? That happened despite me being still. My back became freezing. Despite it being ridiculously hot for British weather anyway. But not where but nowhere else was cold. I generally get a tingly sensation, very similar to pins and needles minus the pain, when a presence is with me. This was similar, but so strong it was almost painful. I was terrified but kept still. It started to stroke up and down my arm, and I was on my side. I felt it stroking my arm. I fell asleep like this, and no, I had nightmares, but I can't for the life of me remember them. Why did that happen? And what did it mean? I'm 15. This is, from what I have gathered, is weird. It hasn't, to my knowledge, occurred since. Why did it get in my bed? Hello. I posted on the sub previously when my daughter first saw the shadow person, so if the backstory sounds familiar to you, I apologize for the redundancy. As a hopefully quick backstory, I saw a shadow person twice in my mother's house growing up. I didn't believe in anything paranormal when this happened to me, and I'm still on the fence about it all to this day. So I know that what I saw was not clouded by any personal beliefs or bias. Uh, I also know that this was not a shadow cast by a passing car or airplane. It did not span the room the way a shadow does. It was very dark. Um, it had the shape of a man, and it was incredibly fast. It absolutely terrified me. It still does. Even all these years later, I can't stand being in my mother's house at night because there's this horrible, thick, sinister feeling on the level of the house where I saw the figure. I just feel all this just something awful, and it's everywhere on that level. I'm 27 years old, and when I sleep there sometimes, when I visit, I literally sprint up the stairs like a petrified child to get to the spare room, because the room where I saw the shadow figure is at the bottom of the stairs, and the fear I experience having to turn my back to it is palpable. Now, as for my daughter, she saw a shadow person in the same exact room I saw mine. I had my daughter when I was very, very young, and my mother adopted her, so she lives in the same house I grew up in. She saw a shadow person in the same exact room that I did, and it absolutely petrified her. She was too afraid to speak about it, and when she finally told my mom told her to tell me, because my mom knew I had seen the same thing. My daughter did not previously know about my experience. She had to write a note to tell me about what she saw because she was too afraid to say it out loud. She thought she was going crazy. Fast forward to last week, and she texted me and said she saw it again in her doorway. She drew a picture on her phone of a black figure the shape of a man, and explained that she woke up at 5 in the morning and saw it standing in her doorway. There is nothing beyond her door, nothing that can cast light inward or cast a shadow. Huh? Alright. There's nothing beyond her door, nothing that can cast light inward or cast a shadow of any kind. My mom confirmed that she had been sleeping when this happened. This isn't the only possibly paranormal type of activity that has happened in that house, but I think my post is bordering on too long already. I want to know though, should I be worried? The 2 times I saw this shadow person at my mother's was in the living room, and it had this horrible presence. It felt menacing. It did not feel like passive at all. I never once saw it outside of the living room, and hearing that my daughter saw it in her doorway really made me nervous. I told her that she shouldn't be worried at all, and told her all of the different hypotheses of where they come from, and so she wouldn't be scared, but hell, I'm scared. I've typed too much. I'm sorry for all the information. Does anyone have any thoughts on this? Just a little background. I was very young at the time, and just like some other younger kids, paranormal stuff doesn't shake us as much looking back on it. I was most likely in a state of sleep paralysis, which is when your mind wakes up before your body and it's still trying to dream, so it sends things at you in real life. But this one was way too special. I was just a little boy when this happened, but I remember it just like it was yesterday. I had been sleeping at my grandparents' house at the time, and I forgot why I was there since it's been many years. It was bedtime, and I was getting ready to sleep. I laid down in my bed, and my grandmother decided to sleep next to me since I was so young. I don't know what triggered it, but I woke up randomly and was shaken. I kind of looked around the room, confused. From outside of the bedroom door, I saw this shadow figure come in. I looked at it with just wonder and amusement. He was moving around in like a boxing stance, but had no shape of an actual human. I saw its arms started swinging back behind it. I stared at it in amazement, but then it happened. It swung at me and punched me in the nose. I woke up screaming and crying for my mom. Uh, my grandmother and my mom both comforted me. I screamed at my mom that there was a man in the room. My grandmother said that she thought her elbow might have hit me in the nose if she had rolled over. I'm looking back on it now and realizing that her reasoning was just way too coincidental. My brain can't time a dream state perfectly with the world around me like that. Either her elbow did hit me and it was just perfectly timed, with the blow made by the Shadow Man, or there really was something in that room. I want to ask you, what did you think happened? It has already happened a few times that something whispered into my ear and called me by the name I was called at home. My brother has have been my brothers have been seeing something by the peripheral vision as well. It started one day. My third older brother supposedly brought home a ghost. Um, my cousin who knew about supernatural stuff said it was an angry ghost and had something to do with my brother's past life. My brothers and even cousins who visit our house sometimes feel something, and when they're alone, like once my cousin was taking a nap and someone tapped her as if trying to wake her up, but no one went to the room she slept. Another time, my cousin slept over and felt the bed sink as if someone sat next to her, sleeping self. But none of us really did. Sometimes my brothers see by their peripheral vision that someone's watching them, and for the past few days, some new things happen. It wasn't just feeling watched or being whispered to. My third older brother saw me, or me, lying down on the sofa bed with my face down, then saw the real me downstairs playing with the dogs. Then he also saw our maid walking outside, but she's actually doing the laundry. He saw our maid twice. The first time, our maid was just walking, but on the second time, our maid was watching him. My cousin said, "This is getting too out of hand. I'm getting creeped out, and ghosts feed on negative emotions. I don't want them to feed more, but I can't stop my fear. Please tell me some ways to drive the spirit away, or at least prevent the spirit from getting closer or do bad things. Hey guys, I'm new to this subreddit thing, but I wanted to post this story because I find this very interesting. There's a few things I want to say before I tell all of you this. This experience my friends encountered. First of all, I don't have many first-hand stories of my own to tell, if any. I love everything unexplained and have been ghost hunting several times. So stories I will tell will be from close acquaintances and family that don't have access or are unaware of Reddit. Secondly, I believe 100% the stories I will post and the ones I will tell are secondhand encounters. It won't be a friend of mine. These experiences happened directly to the person who shared it with me. So, here we go. About 12 years ago, my friend Jay and Sissy were staying in Illinois at the time. They had to be at the doctor at 3 p.m., so they set their alarms to wake up at noon. Apparently, the alarm never went off because Jay and Sissy were awoken by the bright sunlight, and it was 2:30. They hurried and got out the door, wondering how they slept in so late. The couple hopped in their truck and looked at the dashboard. The clock displayed 2:30 a.m. It was broad daylight. Nobody was out on the streets, and Jay double-checked his watch. Surely it was 2 in the morning. They decided to go back inside and fall back asleep. When they woke up at noon, they checked their truck. Their CD player was new. Their CD player was stolen along with a binder of CDs. I don't believe it was a dream because it was a shared experience. I believe them when they told me and my wife. Jay and Sissy both told the story, exchanging turns, and any ideas or theories on what happened, I will gladly take them. Heard earlier this year a little backstory that I think may be relevant. My cousin had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She fought it for about 4 or so years. Unexpectedly, her condition worsened, and her doctor gave her about 2 weeks. This was during a difficult time for me. I just had a baby, and we were struggling financially, so I didn't have the funds nor the time between work and being a mother to a newborn to travel and visit my cousin at the hospital. We traveled to her funeral in my hometown, and I worked a late shift that night. We were living we were living with my boyfriend's parents at the time. We were both relaxing, watching a show when the power went out. No big deal. It happens. His father came and asked my boyfriend for help outside to check out the problem. It is pitch black in the room, and I am laying on the bed. Just a few feet away is my boyfriend's desk, and I pull out my phone to give a bit of light. I look up at his desk, and Then it happens. A small flame, like a lighter being struck, appears level at my face, where his chair is. Suddenly, a wave of heat washes over my entire body. This could have been just from the sheer fright I felt at the moment. I call out to his mom. She is in the kitchen, far away enough that her flashlight shouldn't have caused it. I freak out and tell my boyfriend what happened. I'm shaking and crying, not sure what to make of the situation. He told me in the past their house could possibly be haunted. I'd like to know your opinions and what this could have been or meant. I apologize for the length of this, but I feel the details are warranted. Two really good friends of mine moved into a new apartment together in the city. The building their apartment was in is about estimated 100 years old and was converted into three separate apartments. They've been dating for close to a year now, and they've been really great for each other, considering their troubled past with other partners. They never fight. They work well together. They've been living together before this new apartment for more than 6 months and haven't had any issues. That is, until they moved into their new apartment. For the sake of the story, I'm going to use fake names and we'll call them Steve and Sarah. After some time living in their new apartment, which has two levels that are somewhat still connected to each other, Steve has noticed that every single time he walks from lower floor to the top floor, he gets chills and goosebumps for no reason at all. This happens every time. There's been instances in the kitchen where glasses and other objects which were stably situated on top of the refrigerator have flown off and landed several feet away from its static position. No explanations can be applied to this. Sarah reached out through her network and found a woman who claimed to be a medium. Well, we'll call her Beth. Um, Sarah Sarah called her one day and was telling her the stories and experiences, and Beth asked if Sarah was alone, which she was, but Beth said she heard other voices in the background, and a male and a female voice and without ever seeing the place, Beth was able to describe the entire Beth was able to describe the entire layout of their apartment, which is very unique and odd layout, mind you. Sarah arranged for Beth to come and visit the house and assess the situation and potentially cleanse the area. That day has come to pass, and Beth was asking Sarah if her and Steve have been inexplicably fighting and arguing, or if the tension has been common in this new space. Sarah confirmed that Steve has been lethargic, irritated, and just cold recently overall for no reason. Um, they've addressed the issues and have explained that there is no reason for these arguments and they hold no resentment for each other. Beth told Sarah that there is a man in the 30s, John, who likes to stay under their steps for the most part and hang around the lower level. There is also a lady who mainly occupies the main level and is of old age. The old lady doesn't like Steve one bit and has been trying to drive him away and turn Sarah and Steve against each other. Beth explained that there is no strong signs from John in that regard. Ultimately, Beth cleansed the place to rid them of this odd lady who's been generating negative energy in their new home. However, Beth asked Sarah another question during the process. About a week prior to Beth visiting the apartment, Sarah and Steve had a postponed housewarming party in which I was in attendance. They let me stay the night as I was in no condition to drive and had a long couple of days leading up to the party. I slept in the basement on one of their couches. I woke up in a bit of a daze before anyone else in the apartment had woken up. Not even the dog. Almost a split second after I opened my eyes, I heard a sound that I cannot define, nor can I reasonably attribute a source to it. Directly after that sound, I heard a woman's voice say, "Sir?" as if she was introducing or intruding or asking if I was alright. I knew for a fact what I heard was this spirit in their home. I didn't feel threatened, nor was I particularly frightened, just disturbed by the thought. This was my first paranormal experience, by the way. I fell back asleep for a little while and eventually left after saying goodbye. Now back to Beth's visit. Sarah sent me a text after Beth had left her apartment and to tell me what Beth did, saw, heard, etc. Beth asked Sarah if she recently had a guest visit and sleep in their basement. Of course, Sarah told her that I'd slept on their couch just a week prior. Sarah also informed Beth of my experience hearing the voice in the basement. Beth told them that when I left their house that day, John, the other spirit, left their house with me, followed me out of the house. Has anyone ever been in a similar situation to this? I haven't experienced anything remotely similar to this. Beth said that John may not still be with me, but she cannot be certain of it either. Are there any things I should look out for? Anything I should do provided I feel any negative energy surrounding me? I'm not frightened whatsoever. I'm just curious if anyone else has experienced this. What is up, you guys? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm sorry if I sound a little bit tired right now because I'm fucking exhausted. But I don't want to go to bed because I mean, I just read all these fucking stories. So this took about 4, 5 hours to make. It's currently 7:13 in the morning. I might try to take a nap in a bit, but right now I'm trying to forget about all those stories because I'm a little pussy. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you're new to the channel, subscribe because I want to post more of these videos out. I have 2 video ideas for these scary stories, and they'll be on the way, but I don't think I'm gonna do these compilations for a while because god damn, this was hard to make. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.